Batman Superman issue 10. Joshua Williamson writing with Clayton Henry on the art. The Ultra Humanite story goes forward. You got the autopsy, as it were, of Atomic Skull, and kind of the start of the issue actually is a Superman fight. It's like a flashback to a big fight he had with Ultra Humanite.
Once upon a time in Metropolis. I appreciate that, just the intro of like, okay, no, this is in the past.
Yeah.
Superman doesn't have a forehead here, or is it? He's got damn near 8 head.
It is quite large.
It's large.
I found it very distracting throughout.
Yes. I think the colors are very nice in this comic, and I think the art gets better a little bit as it goes. But the forehead issue is something that's kind of there throughout.
What I will say is, I think the foreheads get better as it goes when he's not in action, because the curl covers a lot of it and makes it better. Like, genuinely, those first few pages where he's flying and the wind's whipping his hair back, really kind of shows it off more. Essentially, when it's covered up a little bit, it's way better.
Page 15, bud. When all the zombies attack, take a look at that one for me.
I'm not saying exclusively.
I know.
Right. Okay.
It's Clayton Henry's style, because I remember reading the Gale Simone. I think it was Gale's Flash, the digital first. And his Barry was very lanky.
I think I remember saying something about that when I read it. Yes. Yeah. I think the pacing and the art though is actually quite good from an action perspective in that opening fight.
I think more importantly, his faces are very expressive, and that matters more than the foreheads ultimately.
Yeah, well, he draws a dope gorilla too.
Sure.
Like, Ultra Human out throughout this book looks great, because there's that page that's the Ultra Humanite's origin, and as concise as possible, which is always nice. That page looks great.
This might not be the Tamaki Wonder Woman Taylor Suicide Squad levels, but I think this book does very successfully continue what seems to be a very solid week, because Batman Superman's been a very enjoyable book, especially after it maybe veered away a little bit from the tie-in stuff at the start. And I think this issue kind of continues the sort of pulpy standalone story that I've kind of been digging in this book. They do a bit of investigating on the Atomic Skull stuff. They try to figure out why Ultra Humanite's involved. Well, they've realized that he's involved for a start. Superman sort of has that realization later, based on what's going on. Some of the tech in Atomic Skull is this Wayne Tech chip, and there's a bunch of tech from LexCorp and Horde Industries, all the big companies. And Bruce kind of figures out that, okay, well, either you spend a long time stealing this tech from lots of different highly secure places, or you get it from a place that kind of has a little bit of everything. And he goes to this kind of waste disposal place that he sends a lot of volatile elements. Apparently, a lot of Joker toxin gets sent here, and
it's the most secure place. And I like the idea of that. It's one of those things I like that they do in comics, where it's like, well, yeah, of course, there's going to be one of these places in this world.
My favorite,
it has to be.
My favorite tidbit here is Superman, because they're coming out of the building. Superman's like, breaking it out is not really my skill set, and Bruce is like, relax, I want it. We're not breaking it; it's mine.
Yeah. So I feel about this book, because I think I'm still fairly positive. Like, I really like this issue a lot.
Yeah.
And we say, it's not on the level of the previous two books, and I agree with that. I will say this book, it fits in a similar mold to kind of how I feel in general, not in quality, but in general about the Justice League book right now, in that it's just these kind of just side stories that are kind of fun. They're not particularly super deep, but they're enjoyable. And I think this is kind of better than what a lot of the recent Justice League has been. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I would say that.
Barring the actual tie-in stuff, once we got past that and we did like the Lazarus Pit with Ray Shazard, it feels like it's just going to be these kind of fun, schlocky stories that are kind of going to stand on their own, and I'm here for that.
And
I'm okay with that.
Really good at those.
I'm okay with that, but I think the quality is still something that goes up and down in schlocky stories, and I think this is higher quality than what Justice League's been doing.
I agree. That's why I said that, and but just in the tone, the feeling, like this doesn't feel like his Flash, for example, where it's this one giant epic. This feels like, no, he's being a bit more laid back with this book, and maybe it'll build to something later. I don't know, but I'm okay if it doesn't.
That's what I figured. Have you guys read Nailbiter?
No.
Yeah, because Nailbiter does that a lot, because it's very much a horror book, but it goes into these not ups and downs, because it's all pretty solid, but yeah, there's these peaks and valleys that he builds in, and you could say it's very schlocky, like some of the places that it goes, and the mystery that it builds to might not, for me at least, didn't end up being what I thought it was going to be. And I feel that that's a lot of the same here with his Batman Superman. Like there's these peaks and valleys, but it's still fun.
Do you feel on Nailbiter and kind of what we're kind of getting at here is that the journey is ultimately more enjoyable than the ending, perhaps, but because the journey is enjoyable enough, it's still worth recommending.
Right. And that I would definitely recommend Nailbiter. And then I'm waiting for Nailbiter to put it's got the sequel series out right now. I don't know how many issues it's going to be, but I read Nailbiter in trade, so I'm going to keep that going. Right. So now when you look at it back that way, that he's had plans to do a follow up, so the way that it ends, but that was on purpose. But in the moment, you're like, oh. So it's kind of like the same with the Flash, where it's like, well, this is just running in circles, pardon the pun. But when he announced, oh no, there's finish line coming, you're like, oh, okay. Well, there's that. With something like this, which is a little bit more open ended, I feel like he doesn't have that pressure. He can just tell these small stories, that are 3 to 4 issues a piece, and then move to that.
When you've already got multiple back books and multiple super books, there's no pressure for you to be telling that amazing story every time. You can have more fun. And like I say, that's kind of what Justice League is at the minute, is doing those style of stories. And this is better, again, but it falls into a similar vein of storytelling. And I kind of miss having some books like this.
As long as the quality's at a place where it feels like I'm having good time. Art's mostly good. I mean, 4 issues aside in this one.
But again, I feel that that's a feature of Clayton Henry's art, not a bug. Yeah. Right. Like that's just how he does it.
I love how big
I feel the same about
is, even when he's in the cowl.
Yeah. So
the quality you guys are talking about is also how I feel about Batman: The Outsiders, where the art's always pretty good. The story's a lot of fun to read. And it's just kind of this mid-level book that doesn't have to be anything else that that there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? No, not pressure, but there's nothing.
Yeah, but I often end up enjoying Batman: The Outsiders and Batman Superman more than I do some other books that are trying to do these bigger stories. Because the quality is just higher, despite the fact that it's not trying to do these big sagas that are taking 50, 100 issues, whatever it is.
And I think it comes down to something we mentioned earlier with a bit of editorial freedom. Perhaps they have a little bit more freedom in these style stories than the ones with the big pressure and like this compared to say Joker War. I imagine Williamson got a lot more freedom here.
But to just get back to what's going on here. So basically, because the device that was stolen was the same device that Ultra Humanite was going for in the flashback, Superman kind of clocks who it is and explains to Batman who this guy is. It explains his backstory a little bit. So if you don't know who he is, and I mean even EB I think forget, because it's not like it comes up that often. Just because it gives you here's a quick bit of history who Ultra Humanite is, and then of course just as they're having this conversation. Very Grodd like this part. All the people in the building start talking to them. All the workers are already dead. Even though I say it's Grodd like, Grodd literally just can do this to anyone at any point, and then they're fine afterwards. These people are already dead. These are people that
zombies.
Humanite is killed and like modified to speak for him. So he's speaking through these people. So Batman and Superman have to take care of them. There's one that's going to explode, so Superman has to fly him out into the sky and get rid of him.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing, is he'd actually put a detonator inside Atomic's skull and was what was setting him off. So
that was the same thing was going to happen here. But this was all a ruse for Batman to be on his own so that they could kidnap Batman. And because there's a line when he's talking to them when they're fighting that implies like, oh, he wants Superman's body. He wants a body that is more powerful and is the best body he can get. But then the twist is that it's not Superman's body he's actually after. He's got Batman strapped to a table, and he's like, blah, blah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Batman breaks out, and he's like, well, that's the thing, I enjoy being a proper villain. He hits a button, and Batman starts glowing like Atomic Skull. He's already done the surgery while he was asleep, and that's the cliffhanger of the issue.
It's a pretty good final page.
Yeah, it says next Atomic Batman, which I'm sure Matt loves the idea.
I mean, if that means that Bruce is gonna have like Ghost Rider powers, and I don't like it.
I don't think so.
If it's just his skull burning, then I'm like, okay.
I think it just means there's a potential. He's going to look a bit weird for a while. He's going to maybe explode, and then they'll fix something and we'll be back to normal. I think that's the extent of this. But
pretty much, yeah.
But that's it's a fun cliffhanger. The banter between Superman and Batman's good. I really enjoyed the flashback at the start. I thought the art was, I mean, again, forehead aside, it flowed really well action wise, panel to panel.
Yeah, I love. Clayton Henry did this a lot in the flashback as well, but just the solid speed lines, like where that like third or fourth panel, whatever is of the whole book, where Superman's been thrown into the truck, and it's just a big red line of big blocky line of the path that he's come from. It's just a nice touch that just looks really solid and gives it that weight to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but no, solid fun. Matt, what are you giving Batman Superman issue 10?
I'm gonna give this a solid. Solid. No, I'll give it a 7.5. Still pretty good, but the art did. I mean, I was gonna give it the 8, but then I remember the foreheads.
You could just give it an 8 that's not solid.
And that's not solid.
Soft 8.
Soft 8.
Yeah. Well,
that's why you say solid something, because you're saying no, it's just really comfortably
to me,
that.
solid means 0.0, not 0.5. So. Yeah.
You could have a solid 7.5 or a solid 8, or you could have a regular 8 and a regular 7.5.
Yeah.
Or you just don't rate it because rating is pointless, but hey.
How dare you! Get that heretic language off my podcast, you Philistine. Alright, Carl, will you read it?
But after Connor Gibbs says, I'll tell a quick story.
Okay.
if it's calling him a Philistine instead, I'm here for that story.
No, it was calling my mother-in-law a Philistine.
Okay. But I am going to give it the 8. I think even with the foreheads, I like the art enough that it just about scrapes there. Like early on in that flashback with the ultra humanized body just being blown up and just being like half open.
Yeah, his shoulders
glorious.
Yeah, his whole shoulder and arms just kind of missing.
Yeah, I think that looks glorious. And so yeah, I will give it the 8. A soft 8, but an 8.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn in there. I will also give it the soft 8. Not the solid 8. Do we have to add in like liquid state and gas state for each of these as well? Alright, that's Batman Superman issue 10.